Before we start on the compilation video, I want to say that If Me Phone 4 was charged for his crimes is still happening. The reason it's not out yet is that after the 4 video released, I got sick and I've been sick for basically a whole month, so I haven't been able to work on it. In fact, this video only exists for the purpose of letting you all know that I'm still around and not to worry about me. With that said, let's get to the new intro. Hey guys, and welcome to the full BFDI challenge ranking. I don't really have anything else to add here other than to subscribe and leave a like, so let's just get straight into it.
Take the Plunge. The episode that started it all. This episode features 2 challenges, the balance beam from the first part and the boat race from the second, and I'll be ranking them separately. The thing about these early challenges is that they tend to be on the simpler side of things, so these 2 are pretty self-explanatory. Out of these 2, the boat race is definitely the most interesting one, but I doubt it'll keep the top spot for very long. Barriers and Pitfalls. The second episode features an obstacle course, but with a twist. All of the teammates that make it to the end have to fill a scale with water, and whichever team collects more water wins the challenge. Definitely more interesting than the last one, so I'll be putting it at the top so far. Are you smarter than a snowball? This episode's challenge is a test. A written test, to be exact. Which isn't a very interesting premise, to be honest. I don't have much else to say about this one, but I'm not a huge fan of it. Bottom of the list. Sweet Tooth. This challenge is to make a cake. Another fairly uninteresting premise. At least this time, the cakes actually look like they would taste good. For that reason, it goes between each of episode 1's challenges. Bridge Crossing. This is easily the least interesting challenge thus far. Said challenge is exactly what is said in the title of the episode. They cross a bridge. I do appreciate the tiebreaker being to break an actual tie though. For that, it goes above Are You Smarter Than a Snowball's challenge, but below Sweet Tooth's. Power of 3. This episode is kind of another obstacle course, but with different obstacles. It's also a race at the same time. There are teams within teams, as the announcer puts it, and the ultimate objective is to open a locked door at the end of the course. I honestly slightly prefer this one to the last obstacle course, so it's going to the top of the list so far. Puzzling Mysteries. This one is significantly weaker than the last. It's them putting together a giant 9-piece puzzle. Bottom of the list, not much to say about this one. Cycle of Life. Here is yet another race, but with another twist. This time, each of the 5 selected members has to carry the next one who will run, and the last one will run normally. Definitely more interesting than last episode's challenge. In fact, it goes between Barrier and Pitfalls and Power of 3. Insectophobe's Nightmare. The title of the episode would suggest that the challenge would have something to do with bugs. However, the actual challenge is yet another race, but a 3-legged race, or more accurately, a 9-legged one. Not even 10 episodes in when we already have 5 challenges that are more or less a race. Let's hope that we don't have too many more of these. Oh, I just realized why it's called that. It's because bugs have lots of legs, and the challenge is about having a bunch of legs. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. Above Bridge Crossing, but below the balance beam. Crybaby! This episode is the first since episode 1 to have 2 challenges in the same episode. The first is to see who can cry the most tears, but then the announcer decides that since everyone had some tears in their buckets, they all tied, so they do yet another race. Yay! The race is still better than a crying challenge though, so the ski race goes above Bridge Crossing, while crying goes to the bottom of the list. Lofty. Finally, a challenge that isn't just another variation of a race. In this one, the contestants have to pop balloons that keep the other teams afloat, which is actually a pretty creative challenge idea, especially compared to the last few. I like it. Second place as of now, just behind the Power of 3.
A leg up in the race.
We're back to races again, but this time they're vertical. More specifically, the contestants have to get to the top of a ladder before the others can do the same. I'm very tired of races at this point though. Just above bridge crossing. Don't lose your marbles. Try to find a red ball this time. That is the objective for this one. Basic, but a decent idea nonetheless. I'm putting it right below Sweet Tooth. Half a loaf is better than none. This one is the first rejoin challenge. To be more specific, the challenge in this one is to collect as many loaves of bread as you can, and whoever collects the most loaves wins. It ends up being spongy. Cloudy would be proud. Decent idea, putting it above Insectophobe's Nightmare. Vomitaco. Here we have another episode that features 2 challenges. The final such episode as of TPOT 2. The Taco Challenge is just a duplicate of the Cape Challenge from episode 4, while the Barf Bag Challenge is more interesting. In this one, they have to try to knock their opponents into what was, initially, colored water. A bit gross, but at least it's original. The Barf Bag Contest goes above the ski race, while the Taco Contest goes above bridge crossing. Bowling, now with explosions. Despite the name, there are no explosions in this episode. It's just bowling. Then contestants can deduct points based on how many pins they knock down. Not the worst challenge ever, but it's incredibly basic. Second verse same as the first, ranking just above bridge crossing. The Reveal. This episode features a frisbee throwing contest. Honestly, I don't have much to say about this one. Just above last episode is where it goes in the ranking. Reveal Novum. The cliff jumping contest doesn't count since that was just a tiebreaker. The main contest is a staring contest, more specifically in the form of a tournament bracket, which is a decent way to set it apart. Just below the ski race is where it goes. Rescission. Oh joy, yet another race. At least it's been 7 episodes since the last one, so I'll allow it. In this one, it's a unicycle race. That's all. Just below Reveal Novum. Gardening Hero. This one has absolutely nothing to do with gardening, so I have no idea why it's called that. Maybe there's some kind of subtext like there was with BFDI 9, but I don't know what it is. What it is about is avoiding death in outer space. The last object standing then chooses someone else to be safe. Everyone starting out with immunity is a nice twist as well. Above the balance beam. The Glistening. In this episode is a long jump contest. Another basic challenge idea, but it works well enough in my opinion. I'll put it above the Reveal. Don't Pierce My Flesh. In this episode, the contestants have to escape a volcano. I would complain that it's technically a race, but at least it's visually distinct from the other ones thanks to the setting. I think I'm gonna put it above the ski race. Hurtful. The final challenge of the first season is yet another race. However, the twist this time is that it also includes a shrunken down version of each of the previous contests. I think that does it enough to set it apart from the other races. That'll put it above half a loaf. Yahoo, I wanna know. The first contest of the second season also happens to be by far the shortest out of any of them, despite not being the shortest episode. It's Tug of War. No twist, that's all it is. Just above bowling, but BFDIA is not off to a great start here. Get Digging. In this episode, each team has to make a stew out of yoil berries, which will then be taste tested by TV. Not much to say about this one, other than that it's the first appearance of Yoil Land during a challenge. Above Reveal Novum. Insectophobe's Nightmare 3. Unlike the first Insectophobe's Nightmare, there are actual insects in this episode, and unlike the second, there's a challenge to talk about. Said challenge is about crushing all of the bugs in the glass containers that the teams are trapped in. Not bad, putting it above the taco contest from Vomitaco. Zeeky Boogie Doog. This episode seems to be somewhat controversial, but I do think the challenge in this one is a novel concept. Each team has to make their own dream island, which will then be judged. Again, that's a good idea, putting it just below Lofty. BFDIA 5. All 5 parts of this episode, the last of BFDIA, involve the same challenge. Get to the summit of Yoyle Mountain. Oh joy, yet another race. On the bright side, much like the Escape the Volcano challenge, this one is far more visually distinct and varied compared to past races. Between a desert, a snowy area, the bottom of the ocean, David Land, and of course, Yoyle Land itself. There are even CGI sections in this episode, top of the overall ranking at this point. It's a shame that this was the last of BFDIA, just as this was getting good too. Getting Teardrop to talk. After 4 years and 1 episode of IDFB, the more traditional competition format returns in the first episode of BFB, and that means more challenges. The first is to get a basket and get it to X. A pretty basic one, but it can be looked past considering there are over 30 newbies, so a more basic challenge allows for them to have some kind of a personality to be established. That part won't affect the ranking though, but I'm still placing it above half a loaf. Lick your way to freedom. One thing that sets BFB apart from its predecessors is that its challenges can be a bit more out there sometimes. In this one, 4 decided to recover some of the objects into jawbreakers that they need to be broken out of. It's certainly a unique one, but that doesn't mean it's not a bit boring. Below the taco challenge from Vomitaco. Why would you do this on a swing set? Like last episode, this one is displayed in the title of the episode. Some of the solutions that the objects come up with are fairly novel ones, but the idea itself really isn't that creative. Above Yahoo I Wanna Know. Today's very special episode. Today's challenge is to inflate 4's ego, to render 4 in a creative way. It's a good challenge idea, honestly, even if free food getting first place is kinda... well... Even so, it goes just below Sweet Tooth. Fortunate Ben. This episode may not be very good, but the challenge itself isn't half bad. The objects have to keep the paper planes from hitting the ground. Basic, but it's alright. Above Reveal Novum. Just keep in mind that I'm ranking the challenges, not the episodes themselves. 4 goes too far. After 4 gets killed, Donut takes over and he gets to choose the challenge. Said challenge is what I like to call Twinkle Tag, since it is essentially a game of tag, considering whoever has the twinkle, i.e. whoever's it, after 3 hours causes their team to lose. It's a good variation on tag nonetheless. The liar ball you don't want. This one can kind of be compared to soccer. I mean, each team has a goal, and there's a ball, except said ball is a jawbreaker that has loser inside. Basically, this challenge is to not be the team that have the liar ball in their goal, as the name of the episode implies. It's okay. Above Get Digging. Questions answered. This episode's challenge is a quiz show, which seems like a pretty obvious idea for a competition show, and I'm kind of surprised they didn't do this sooner. That said, since it's an obvious idea, that means it's not all that original, even if several of the questions are directly related to BFDI, putting it above the reveal. This episode is about basketball. This episode is also the 40th challenge in the list. The main thing I like about this challenge, which is to wait on the baskets from episode 1 with balls, is the way X came up with it. Other than that, it's really nothing to write home about. Above bowling. Enter the exit. This challenge, in this episode, is to bring 4 back to life. I was originally torn on whether to include this one in the list, but it was announced in the form of a challenge.
Bring back 4!
So I say it counts. It's not very long though, but it is something completely unique to BFDI, so I'll give it that. Just below Get Digging. Get to the top in 500 steps. Oh cool, another race. Whatever, it's been a while, so it's fine. Each team has to send an object up the stairs to press a button. It's a fine challenge, I suppose. Below half a loaf is where it goes. What do you think of roleplay? This is probably the most unique challenge of the bunch so far. Like Among Us before Among Us. even though the game actually came out first, but I digress. One of the best challenges, to be honest, above the power of 3. Return of the rocket ship / don't dig straight down. Search for an emerald to ensure safety for your team, and this can include another team's emerald, or even counterfeits. Apparently this was a task so time-consuming that it took 2 whole episodes for the challenge to finish, but that's not really a complaint. The important part is that it's a good challenge, above barriers and pitfalls. The 4 is lava. The final challenge of BFB before the split was for all of the living contestants to make their way to where 4 was. Due to the lava and the prohibition of dying, they had to get creative. Eventually the lava is drained and it becomes yet another race. Joy. It goes above hurtful though. Seems like the challenges have been on a hot streak lately. Let's see how much further that continues. X marks the spot. The first challenge of post-split BFB is this. X stayed with 2 after 4 told them to, so now each team has to try to bring X back to the new location that 4 and the remaining 14 contestants left for. I really dislike how the X-colored team ended up winning, but it's not a bad challenge idea. It goes below get to the top in 500 steps. Take the tower. Each team has to try to make the other team's tower collapse. It's a simple challenge, but I like it. I also like how their teams get named after whether they have somewhere to live or not. Anyways, I'm putting it above hurtful. How low can you grow? In this one, the contestants have to figure out how to make X's aloe vera plants grow taller. It ends up being the have-nots who succeed, but unfortunately for them, they burn alive, as does X, which will be important later. For now though, I think this challenge is alright. Above Fortunate Ben. A Taste of Space. In this episode, X, who has just been left on fire for weeks since last episode, needs to be put out by the contestants. This was not a very good challenge idea, not even because it's a bad concept, but because X screaming for half the episode is really annoying. I'm putting it below this episode is about basketball. Let's raid the warehouse. This one is self-explanatory. The contestants have to get gifts for their teammates from Yellowface's warehouse. Not much of interest here, but it's not that bad. Below a leg up in the race. Who stole Donut's diary? This one is even more self-explanatory than last time. Somebody took Donut's diary and the teams have to find out who it was. I like how it feels a bit like an Ace Attorney game. Even the thumbnail has a reference. I don't have much else to say here though, but it's a good one. Above Don't Lose Your Marbles. Fashion for your face. In this one, 4 has to be broken out of jail. Good concept, but it falls apart due to the execution. In fact, a lot of the episode the challenge is in caused me to forget that that was even the challenge, but that's not really a fault with the challenge itself. Again, it's a solid idea on a conceptual level. The execution, though, means I need to put it below the taco contest from Vomitaco. The game has changed. This episode marks the start of BFB's merge phase. Each contestant has to throw a party for 4 to make up for ignoring them in favor of Purpleface and X. I like this challenge, which I'm placing above Gardening Hero. The Twisted Temple. Find a totem. If yours is cursed, you lose and are up for elimination. Decent concept, not a fan of the execution, not much else to say here. Below questions answered. The Hidden Contestant. Back in BFB 20, there was a certain recommended character that would pop up again later. That character is Profiley, who is the center of this episode's challenge. Whoever gets them to the BRB is the one who has immunity from elimination. Eliminating another contestant, whether or not Profiley was actually always there, is a great challenge idea in my opinion. I'm putting it above Sweet Tooth. Uprooting everything. Remember the giant oven from all the way back in BFB 1? Well, in this episode, we return to that location, and the 4 remaining contestants have to escape from it. Kinda boring though. Below bowling. BFB, back from beginning. The final challenge of the season is exactly the same as Hurtful. I think this one is slightly better than that one though, since there was more variety in challenge types during BFB than BFDI. Only slightly better though, so it occupies the next spot up from Hurtful. I originally thought about putting Save Our Show in here, but after thinking about it more, decided to omit it, which means we have arrived at the end of BFB. But we're not done quite yet. You know those buttons don't do anything, right? After the teams are formed and the landscape is remodeled, it's time for the first challenge of TPOT, which is to get your entire team to the top of the hotel that 2 materialized back in BFB 16. So basically that means it's a race. Oh goody. It's serviceable enough though, so I'll place it above the barf bag contest from Vomitaco. The worst day of Black Hole's life. As of now, this is the newest episode in the series. As such, this means it's the last challenge, so let's hope it's something good. In this one, the teams have to stack a tall tower of blocks, and they can stick them together with glue, or even go knock over other team stacks. Anything to win. Not the best, but it's solid. Above half a loaf. And that's every single challenge up to TPOT 2. I feel bad that it ended up taking so long to get this video done, when I originally hoped to get it all done in one go. But it's all in the past now. I got it done and that's all that matters in the end. Anyways, as I promised before, this is the ranking from worst to best. Crybaby's Crying Contest. Puzzling Mysteries. Are You Smarter Than a Snowball? Crybaby's Handstand Contest. Bridge Crossing. Uprooting Everything. Bowling, now with explosions. A Taste of Space. This episode is about basketball. Yahoo, I wanna know. Why would you do this on a swing set? The Reveal. The Twisted Tempo. Questions Answered. The Glistening. Lick Your Way to Freedom. Vomitaco's Taco Contest. Insectophobe's Nightmare 3. Let's Raid the Warehouse. A Leg Up in the Race. Rescission. Reveal Novum. Fortunate Ben. How Low Can You Grow? Enter the Exit. Get Digging. The Liar Ball You Don't Want. Crybaby's Skiing Contest. Vomitaco's Barf Bag Contest. You know those buttons don't do anything, right? Insectophobe's Nightmare 1. X marks the spot. Get to the top in 500 steps. Half a loaf is better than none. Getting Teardrop to talk.
Half a loaf turtles contest.
Hurtful. BFB, back from beginning. Take the tower. The 4 is lava. Take the plunge's balance beam contest. Gardening hero. The game has changed. Don't lose your marbles. Who stole Dorna's diary? Today's very special episode. Sweet Tooth. The hidden contestant. Take the plunge's boat race contest. Barriers and pitfalls. Return of the rocket ship / don't dig straight down. Zeeky Boogie Doo. Lofty and Power of 3. Woof, what a mouthful all that was. But it's finally over. I finally finished ranking every single BFDI challenge. Thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, and I'll see you in the next video.